And then I'll wing it, but I can wing it pretty well. So hey everybody, thanks for coming here. My name's Josh Baer, and we're closing it out. This is the end of the conference, and so appreciate you all hanging out here.
End of the day.
End of the day. Sorry, end of the day. And I'll keep it pretty quick and light. And if you guys have questions, we can talk about it. If not, we'll get over to the happy hour and the party, which is right after this, actually at Capital Factory down the street. So just give me a sense of who's here today. Who here is from Austin? Most of you. Who's not from Austin? Where are you from? Houston. Houston. Where? Memphis. Anybody else?
Hampshire.
Where? I grew up in Nashua. All right. Cool. Then, sorry. Best place to live in the country before Austin. For over and over. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming. Sounds like a bunch of you are from Austin. So who's been to Capital Factory? Who's from Austin? Most of you. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to give you a quick vision of what we're doing in particular this year and how that fits into Texas strategy. And then beyond that, how that fits into Bitcoin and what we're doing with crypto and Bitcoin. And then we'll have some time for Q&A, and we'll probably keep it pretty quick. But our story these days is all about Texas. Actually, it was all about Texas until the Army Futures Command showed up this summer. Now we're refiguring our story because now there's all this Army Futures Command stuff going on. But really for the past year, it's been all about Texas because we think Texas is an incredible opportunity in general for startups, certainly for crypto. And usually the way they measure startups and effectiveness of all these types of things is by funding. That's like the number one thing they're tracking all the time is how much money did companies raise. And when you look at those numbers, even though Austin and Texas are one of the biggest markets in the country and probably should be getting about 8 or 10% of all the venture capital, it gets at about 2% of all the venture capital. So everyone says it's broken and it's not working right. But I think that's actually the wrong thing to look at because the funding is the trailing indicator. That's looking at the past. And actually, I think the leading indicator that tells you what's going to happen is talent. It's people. And no matter which way you measure it, Texas and Austin in particular are totally kicking ass for talent. That part starts with us being fastest growing city in the country for many, many years in a row with many of the fastest growing cities. And also all the people and companies that are moving here. So all the people are moving here. That's why so many companies are moving here. That's why we're the place that Amazon is considering for its HQ too, and same with Dallas. It's why Army Futures Command came. It's why Apple has their second largest headquarters in Austin. It's why Google and Facebook and all these others do. It's because there's a ton of talent here and talent moving here. And so the companies have to follow the talent and the money has to follow the companies. So if we just keep building great companies and having great people come here, the money will come. I really believe that. But what our opportunity is that we've got some money and we're investing it in all the companies because nobody else seems to see that right now. And so we're running around investing in all the companies here in Texas. And then the other thing about this triangle that you see here is these 4 cities, Austin, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. It's actually pretty unique. There are 4 of the 10 or 11 largest cities in the country, 4 of the 11 fastest growing cities in the country, and 4 of the top technology and startup hubs in the country. And yet, they're so close together that you can go from any one city to any other city just for the day. So this past week, I was in Dallas on Monday, I was back in Austin on Tuesday, I was back in Dallas again on Wednesday, I was back in Austin again on Thursday, and I'm here today. And you can, and you can do that. And you can't really do that anywhere else with these 4 markets that are so big. And that means if you're a startup and you launch city by city, you can launch in one of these cities and have a headquarters there, and you can service all of those 4 cities from one place and have be in 4 of the biggest markets in the country. And then Texas as a country itself, because Texas kind of is like a country, if it was a country, it would be the 10th largest economy in the world. It's bigger than Russia. And our governor likes to think that makes him more powerful than Putin. But it's a big economy. It's a big opportunity. And that's what we have, that's our thing here. And so the cities, 4 cities I mentioned, they're all really different. Austin often at the top of whatever top 10 list they happen to be making at the time. It was just, one of the top places for tech jobs, one of the best places to live, it's fastest growing, all these things like that. But actually all 4 cities are almost always on every top 10 list of whichever one you'll make. And they're also really different. So Austin's kind of the generalist. We have all kinds of things happening here, certainly crypto being one of them. But Houston is the oil and gas and health town. So they have a bunch of oil and gas companies, and they have the largest medical center in the country is based there. And Texas as a whole has more Fortune 500 companies based here than any other state other than New York And there's 0 of them in Austin. There's 25 oil and gas companies based in Houston. And then there's 25 other companies that are all kinds of things like Toyota and Capital One and AT&T and Southwest and American, and they're all based up in Dallas. That's where all the other big headquarters are of big Fortune 500 companies. And so if you're a startup in Austin, even if you're based here, if you sell to big companies, you can go to Houston and to Dallas and think of that like it's your backyard and sell to all these big companies. And then San Antonio has USAA plus one of the largest military bases in the country. So it's military city. So there's cybersecurity down there, a bunch of other things happening down there too. And so the other thing is, I just talked about how Texas doesn't get enough funding. We only get 2% of all the venture capital. Well, every time you say that, everybody says that, and they're looking to California. They're expecting all that money to come from California. But there's a lot of money in Texas that just traditionally doesn't go into tech. Why? It's oil money. It's oil and gas money, and it's traditional family wealth and real estate money, and it's not in Austin either. It's in Houston and Dallas, right? And so by connecting these different places together, by us having a presence there, by us going there, by us bringing people from Austin there and from there to here, can we help connect together the startups and the money and the big companies and get all those pieces flowing? And that is the Texas Startup Manifesto. And that's what we've been doing for the past year, both by physically launching an office in Dallas that we did and actually putting people on buses and trucking them all over the state on a regular basis pretty much every month. So Texas as a whole, totally kicking ass. This is our GDP growth at the end of last year. Just blows everyone else out of the water. This is a Kauffman Foundation report showing that Texas is one of the top states for entrepreneurial activity, with the 4 cities within it being always top cities for entrepreneurial activity. Indeed says that Austin and Dallas are 2 of the best places to hire software engineers. So best cost of living versus what they get paid, and at the same time, cost of doing business versus what it costs to acquire and retain that talent. So again, talent driving things. That's why so many people are here. And man, I never thought I would see this headline. Silicon Valley is starting to hate Silicon Valley. I never thought it would come, but they're all coming here, and I meet them. They're all coming to Austin, and they show up at Capital Factory because they just moved here and they want to plug into things, and they just left some job in Google or Facebook or somewhere else, and they're moving their startup here to Austin. And so our thesis is that Texas is a global leader, and everybody else just hasn't figured it out yet. And so our goal is to go help and meet all the startups in Texas and help them grow by connecting them to money, to investors, to help them grow their teams, to hire employees, and to connect them to their first customers, which turn from a good idea into something real. And we do that in our space a couple blocks from here, which again, there's a wrap-up party after this I hope you can all come to. That's an example of one of the many things that happened there over the course of a year. Last year, with about half as much space as we have now, we did over 1,000 different events, so handful of different things happening every day, and brought in over 100,000 people participating in those. And those are all entrepreneurs and programmers and people like that. The other thing I think is so great about all those things is like 90% of those things were things other people were doing, like the thing tonight where other people are coming in. And most of those things, nobody got paid to do it. Nobody was paying to be there. It was really the community putting these things on and helping each other. And a lot of that happens during South by Southwest. That's one of the biggest times of the year. Austin Startup Week, another really big time of the year. But it's all year around and every day that those things are happening. And then when they get serious, they can work there. We have a co-working space. We don't think of ourselves as a co-working business. We're not trying to compete with WeWork or places like that. It's just good to have people around us when we're working, and they like to be there because there's so many interesting people coming through that they can meet, and kind of the serendipity of bumping into people and being around as those things happen. But for us, it's also part of how we figure out who's doing, like, who to invest in, because like we live with them. So like we know who works really hard because I'm there every day, and I know who's there at the end of the day when I leave and who's still working, and we see who's taking lots of meetings, and we see the talent moving and other things like that that help us figure out who to invest in. And then probably one of the biggest reasons why people work there is because we have a mentor network that's all successful entrepreneurs who volunteer their time to go help other people get started. And there's about 200 of them now. It means every day there's a dozen people there that if you're a member, you can really easily go grab a spot and go meet with. And that's really why everybody's there. Nobody comes to Capital Factory because they really need a desk or they really need an office. There's probably a lot of other places they could go. There's probably places they could go for free. You come to Capital Factory because you're looking for a person. You're looking for your co-founder. You're looking for your first investor. You're looking for a mentor, someone who's seen this before, who can help you. You're looking for your first customer, a case study to like make it real. That's why you come to Capital Factory. And so we have 80,000 square feet on 3 floors with a 4th floor we're getting ready to open at the beginning of next year here in Austin. We have 26,000 square feet in Dallas that opened up earlier this year. And like I said, every month we put people on a bus and we take them all over Texas to other places, to Houston, to San Antonio, up to Dallas and other areas. There's about 70 people on the team there that help do it. And what I think is actually so special about our company culture is, there's a lot of companies where, and this is a good thing in general, but where what they celebrate, what they bang the gong, what they honor is, closing the big deal at the end of the month, right? And that's what their salespeople celebrate. And in our team, what we celebrate is connecting people together. And so those people, what they're going to brag about, what they're going to, pat each other on the back for, what they're going to brag to me about, or what I'm going to congratulate them for, is that they got some startup in front of some investor, or they got some entrepreneur in front of some big company, or connected with some mentor or something like that. And so with all those things happening, that attracts a lot of attention. And pretty much every day, there's all these other groups and people coming through that just want to see what's going on and want to plug into it somehow. And that's school groups and chambers of commerce and big companies and executives and international groups. And it's world leaders. And for all those people coming through, we have someone whose job is to track all those people. And in addition to giving them some really great experience, which is why they want to come, and giving them an awesome tour and having them see some startups, what we're really doing on our side is we're thinking, which startup would really benefit from getting in front of this person? Which startup could have their whole trajectory changed by this person or this company coming through? And so one of the first big VIP tours we ever gave was to President Obama. That was a good learning opportunity. You have to give the president a tour. You learn how to give a really good tour. And so we got taught that by the White House Advance team. We've had the Secretary of Defense there multiple times. And just over the past year, we've had SBA Administrator Linda McMahon, the CEO of Apple, the CEO of Microsoft, the founder of Reddit, Walter Isaacson, the Prince of the Netherlands, the Prince of Norway, the Secretary of the Army, the Secretary of the Air Force, the Chief of Staff of the Army. Every month, there is some world leader coming through, and in addition to every day, all the other people coming through on a regular basis. And so then that's this big fire hose of attention, and that's what we do that's different than any other place. There's lots of co-working spaces, there are lots of mentor networks, there are lots of investment funds. We think we're pretty good at all those things, but nobody has this pipeline of attention like what we've created. And then what our accelerator is about is how startups jack into that. How they make sure that when the right person comes through for them, they get an introduction and they get connected to them. And then we have an entrepreneur residence program. That's for serial entrepreneurs, for the mentors, to be able to go use it, to go start their company and to plug in and build their team and meet the things that they need. And then our innovation council is how big companies tap into that, because the big companies want to go meet startups too. And so they use this pipeline as a filter to meet all the new companies that are coming through and figure out who they can work with, which for the companies, for the startups, is it's like a round of funding when they do a case study with you or something. Plus, then you get this case study, this customer you can point to that's hopefully some big name and is real. And so we really, that's kind of how this whole place works. We've helped launch most of the other accelerators here in Austin and in Texas. So we really like collaborating with all the other groups. And then the way our investment fund works is we basically sit back and we watch all this stuff happen. And usually over the time that it takes when we meet a company versus when they actually go raise funding, even though everybody thinks it's going to happen in a few weeks, honestly, it's usually a year or two from when we first meet them to when things really start to take off. Sometimes it happens faster, but it usually takes a while. And over that time, we get to learn so much about these people, being around them and living with them and having them interact with us and all these other people that come through, so that by the time it actually comes time to invest, it's pretty obvious to us usually whether or not we should invest. And through that, we're the most active early stage investor in Texas. We don't have the most money, but we write the most checks. And so we've invested in probably about 80 companies this year. So every week we're writing multiple checks to lots of different companies. And so that's basically Capital Factory, and appreciate you guys all hanging out and through the end of this and hear about it. But if you have any questions, happy to answer some before we all run over. And it's just at the Omni Hotel, most of you know, but it's at the Omni Hotel up at 7th and Brazos. And there's an after party right now after this on the first floor in the big stage room. Is there a shuttle? I got a scooter. I don't know.
How far is it?
A mile?
1 mile.
Yeah.
One
It's
mile.
It's a nice day out. It's probably a 20-minute walk, but, you know, like a 2-minute scooter ride. Any questions? Yeah.
So, first of all, congratulations, awesome presentation. I would like to ask what international connections do you guys have or are you developing?
Yeah, international is so interesting. So Houston is actually one of the most international cities in the country, and certainly in Texas. About 25% of the people that actually live in Houston are international, come from some other place. And so we love being connected to that. But Austin is like the place that everybody wants to visit, And so South by Southwest is part of that. So South by Southwest is a very international event that brings people from all over the world here every year. And then every week there's people visiting from all over the world that just want to come learn about Austin and see about it. And it's, like I said, a lot of chambers of commerce bringing groups. It's other we have sister city relationships with Angers, France, and Hackney, England, and other places where they actually formally send startups every year, and a lot of them bring big delegations to South by Southwest. And so anybody like that comes to Austin, comes to Capital Factory. That's like a required stop that they're going to come to and plug in. And so one thing we do is we're just meeting a lot of them and trying to help them understand the landscape. And then in particular, what's most interesting to us, because we can't really, to be honest, it's very hard to invest in international companies for various different reasons. They usually aren't U.S. companies, and it's usually more complicated. We'd like to, but it's a little harder. So it's usually not a fit. And usually by the time a company comes to the U.S. from overseas, they're actually much bigger because little ones grow over there, and then they come here, they're already a pretty big company. And so really the way we've found we've been able to be most helpful is just by giving them a landing pad, because they want to establish their U.S. presence. They want to hire their first couple people here, and they want to start growing often a sales team or other people here in the U.S. And they go to Silicon Valley, and they're lost, and it's really noisy, and it's really hard to hire people, and nobody cares that they're there, and it's really expensive. And so a lot of them look at coming to somewhere like Austin as an alternative because we're actually excited that they're coming, and we help plug them into the community here, and it's a lot more cost effective. And from here they can service the whole country, right? You're right in the middle, and you can hit both coasts and things like that. And so we have a formal program to help companies that are looking to establish that base here in the U.S. to set up their first office, to help them hire those people, to help them figure out and navigate that structure and get launched here. And probably the most successful company that we've done that with is called Kahoot. And they're one of the leading ed tech companies in the world that came out of Norway. And I think they're just about to move out. They've been with us for probably like 2 years, but they're finally outgrowing us. But they've had an office with us. And Fred Schmidt, who heads up all our international programming, has been really, really working closely with them and helping them launch.
And have you thought about franchising the module to Europe or other places?
We get a lot of people that, especially because we get so many visitors from other places, and just Austin is in many ways an aspirational city, a role model for other cities. We get a lot of people that come here and say that. Our focus is on Texas, so we did open a place in Dallas. Maybe we might open other places in Texas in the future, but we're part of a few different networks of startup hubs like us. And to be honest, it's not it doesn't have to be a Capital Factory somewhere else. We'll show them how everything works, right? And let them go create their place. But in the end, while I think we've got some good things we figured out, what really makes anything like this work is the people. It's it's all about the people. That's really and so I can't be that person somewhere else. I think I can kind of cover Texas, but I can't be that person somewhere else. And I think in the end, to be honest, if they have the right people, they don't need me. They can watch what we're doing. They can learn. We'll share it with them, and they can go do it.
Let's talk about it. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Anything else? Well, great. Well, thanks for coming and staying. And I'm going to head over from here over to Capital Factory. So hopefully I'll see you guys all over there. Thanks.